Hi, partners. Thanks for joining me. My research director, my writer, and everything else, Dennis Daly, likes what my idea is of doing what I'm going to do today. I'm departing from the regular routine that we've been having where I've been talking about our founding fathers and everything, because I want to talk to you just personally about something that I got in an email recently, but then tie it in with what I believe to be the greatest program in the world. That's Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a program that is used for all companies, big companies. They pay a lot of money to get their employees to learn how to speak, because that's what it does. One-on-one Toastmasters, by just to teach someone how to sell or speaking to an audience. Well, here's the way they say. Make a speech in 3 parts. Part 1, tell them what you're going to tell them. Part 2, tell them. And Part 3, tell them what you just got through telling them. Now that sounds so childish, but think about this. Go to a church service and you'll see that the minister, the priest, or the rabbi will take their book and read the scriptures, and then they'll talk about what the scriptures are, and then they'll turn right around and recap it again. This is the same with everything that we do. The only difference between an adult and a child is just the cost of the toy. I'm always saying, think about it. A little child, you tell a story, and they say, you go to sleep. I want to hear a story. What do you want to hear? I want to hear Little Red Riding Hood. I've told you that 3 years in a row. I want to hear it again. So you start off and you start telling it, then you think to yourself, I believe I'll change just a little bit to make it new to me. And the little child looks up and said, it didn't happen that way. So, well, wait a minute, why don't you tell me? No, you tell it, but tell it right. I always talk about our brain as being a computer. This little child's brain gets a different picture of what that wolf looks like, Little Red Riding Hood, whatever it is, and constantly growing. This is it. Now let's see how this works. If you give an idea to 100 people in a room and don't repeat it, in 24 hours, that's one day, 25 of those 100 people will have forgotten what you said. In 2 days, 50 of the 100 will not remember what you said. In 4 days, 85 out of the 100 won't remember, and in just 16 days, 98 out of the 100 won't even know they remember you were their speaker. So repetition is good. To repeat things over and over, that's fine. Now, you're saying, well, I can understand that, but what does that have to do with tithing? Because as you saw, my talk for you is about Toastmasters and tithing. Okay, I'll bring that. I'm glad you asked that. After World War II, I was with Patton's 3rd Army Combat Engineers till the war ended, and then they switched me into SHAEF headquarters where General Eisenhower was in charge. They put me in special services. The colonel in charge of our division said this fellow should have been in show business all the time. Made me feel good. So the last few weeks of the war, I was at SHAEF headquarters, and then they said, okay, you can go home now, or you can stay over here in Europe and go to college if you want to. So, I'm an actor. I'm going to Hollywood. I'm going straight there because I don't need to go into school. Now, that I've learned in my book, I told you that's the dumbest thing I could have ever said. Education is the most important thing we have. But anyway, I was just a young man. I wanted to be an actor. So they said, what are you going to do? And I said, give me a pass to London. So from Frankfurt, Germany, I went to London. I met Sir Kenneth Barnes at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. I said, Sir Kenneth, I've got to come to this school. I told him about the time when I was a little boy and saw 10 Nights in a Bar Room, and it made me want to be an actor. And he said, by Jove, I'll accept you. So I stayed there in London. While I was there, I met a girl named Muriel Jones. Later we were married, but at this point, she was in a show with Vic Oliver, The Night in the Music, whose wife was Winston Churchill's daughter, Sarah. I told her mother and dad, I said, if you let her come to America and she likes my family, we'll get married. If she doesn't, I'll send her home, nobody's hurt. But if we do get married, we're going to stay married, and I'll see she gets home. Well, they loved it. They thought as soon as he leaves, she'll forget about him. So I came home. Couldn't get Muriel to come home with me because I had no money. So I stayed here, and a year later my dad had to post a $500 bond to get her to come over there because I had no money, and they had to be assured that she could go home if we didn't get married. I had promised her mother and dad that if we got married, I'd see she got home. And when I got home and told Daddy about Muriel, he said, "Babe, I can't believe anybody would give up their home and go overseas to marry somebody, not even one of my boys." I said, "Daddy, I promised her mother and dad that I'd see she comes home." He said, "Don't lose that promise. Always keep that." And I said, "I will, Daddy." We were married September the 26th, 1947. She went home 39 times during the next 40 and a half years we were married. I brought her mother over here twice, her mother and dad once together. They said, "Jimmy, you kept your promise." We never had any children because I knew that I would be going home and the little children would say, "Where's Mom?" Couldn't say she's going home to see her mother and dad. But that promise, and they kept saying to me, "You kept your promise, Jimmy. All these years, you've done just exactly what you said you would do." Well, she came out to Hollywood with me, and she was in Little House on the Prairie for 8 years, and Trapper John as a nurse, 5 years. She worked in a lot of shows as a dancer because that was her profession. But anyway, let's get back here. What's that got to do with tithing? Thank you very much. That's it. Remember, Toastmasters is the one that teaches you how to speak. Tithing, the Bible says that. Give your money. Give money to God. So I said, fine. Well, anyway, let me tell you, I had no children. We didn't want any. But I met a young man I've known almost 60 years now. And if I had a son, I'd like for it to be like him. He lives in Chico today, and he sent me a special email. And I've heard him say this over, but it just registered suddenly. I thought, golly, got me. He said, "Jimmy, I tie my donations into your little foundation with my church. You're doing God's work, and I want to do something to help if I possibly can." Well, I'm always saying psychic income doesn't appear on an income tax report. It's in the heart. And recognition for an entertainer is the highest income that can be had. When I thought of what Andre Greco had said, tying my talking to children, doing God's work, teaching them something about America. He loves it when I close with prayer and all the other things. So he said, "You're doing God's work." And I said, "Man, I can't explain what that means to me." But every time I see one of his checks, a donation to the little Foundation Center for Youth Patriotism, I feel like adrenaline is being put in my arms. I see that with everyone now that sends me donations. I see them thinking about, you're doing God's work, Jimmy, teaching these young people about America. Oh, Father, thank you so much. Thank you. I've been blessed so much. All right, okay, right now, I'll stop. I'll stop. Dennis taught me now, if you look up here at the top of the right, there are 3 boxes, and the one that's the farthest over has a red X in it. And if you're not familiar, if you didn't, or if you've had trouble sometimes getting back to my little page where I'm sending you my report, all you do when I'm finished is just reach up and click that red X, and it'll take you right back to the page where my report is, and you can read the rest of it. You're going to find out what it will mean to me and what you can do by helping me get into schools. Oh, God, thank you. I've been blessed so much. I'm going to say right now, I love you. Go get 'em, Tigers!